Welcome to There Is a Method to the Madness. My name is Rob Maxwell and I'm an exercise physiologist and personal trainer. I've been in business for the past 28 years. We have a fun podcast planned today. I'm going to talk about two things that I like to talk about, and that is good is the enemy of great from the famous book, and everybody wants to go to heaven, nobody wants to die. These two things are tied together, and I'm going to talk about them in the fitness realm. Before I do that, I want to thank our sponsors, Jonathan and Lynn Gilden at the Gilden Group at Realty Pros. Currently, they have 275-star reviews on Zillow and over 100 million sold between the two of them. Their goal is to provide the highest level of customer service, and the reviews will definitely back that up. There has absolutely never been a better time to sell your home, and if you're interested, please give either of them a call, Jonathan and or Lynn, at 386-451-2412. They're the best people. Now, let's jump into today's topic. I'm going to break them up a little bit, although they're absolutely both related to each other. The first one is good is the enemy of great. Now, when we get phone calls or internet inquiries or text messages or emails, whatever it might be, for new clients, new client referrals, 9 out of 10 of them, maybe a little bit less these days, maybe 70% or so mention weight loss, as their outright goal. And that's been the case for a really, really long time. I don't think that issue is going away anytime soon in America. So when we get those, and I think just about any legitimate trainer out there sort of gets a little bit of a, oh no, we're in a good position to where we're pretty full and we actually have a waiting list, so it's not like we could take people right away anyway. But at the same time, that's a factor regarding what their goals are too. To be honest with you, that matters. And it's not like we won't work with people with weight loss. It's very, very necessary. But we're going to screen them real tightly. And I think most trainers feel the same way, especially when it's personal training, exercise physiology, where there's a lot of other areas to work with out there. And there are so many other variables that a person has to be willing to do to lose weight. And again, I'd say most of the legitimate trainers out there are a little concerned when they hear that because they know it's going to be a challenge. So with that little introduction, I'm going to go into how these two little statements play into this. So good is the enemy of great. So I worked with somebody before. I think at his peak weight, he was over 400 pounds, and he got down to somewhere just under 270 pounds, or possibly right at 270 pounds. So over 130 pound weight loss, and that's pretty awesome. I've worked with others that have lost a ton of weight, not nearly as much as that. That's the all-time record. And you might be thinking, well, 270 is pretty big, and that it is. At the same time, he looked like a different person at 270 pounds compared to 400 pounds, and he felt like a different person. He was a different person. So it was an awesome accomplishment, and I'm proud of that. He's proud of that, and that's a lot of weight. The point is like, that's not good, right? So where he was at the time was not good. Where he was at the time was desperation. And he wanted to do everything he needed to do to shed these pounds. And he had a lot to lose. So that wasn't good, if you're following me. That was very poor, very desperate. And that's not the enemy of great or getting good. Because when you're in that situation, you're willing to do everything it takes to get better. It's kind of like an alcoholic who has absolutely hit bottom. They've maybe gotten DUIs or worse. They may have ruined their marriage or worse. They may be in jail or worse. And yes, there are worse things. That is what we call an outright bottom. Those things are bottom. Everybody has a different bottom, but we would probably all agree that's a bottom. They're willing to do what it takes to get sober. If they really hit a bottom, they're willing to do whatever it takes to get sober. Now take somebody who everybody around them would agree that they probably have a drinking problem, but they won't believe they have a drinking problem, and they might make comments like, well, I know I drink too much sometimes, but I'm not an alcoholic. Okay, now try getting them to cut back. It's not going to happen. They haven't hit a bottom yet, so they're just not going to do it. I mean, I've worked in rehab. I know what it's like. They're not going to do it. They might say they are, but basically everything they say is to get people off their back. It's not really to change themselves or to get help. So with alcohol, I'm sure you can understand, or drugs, you can understand the analogy I'm making here. With weight loss, there's very similar factors. Most people that say they want to lose weight are in that good, average, below average category. The ones that actually call a trainer, the ones who are in the morbid obesity category, oftentimes don't. They might go in other directions, sometimes medical. But the point is, as trainers, we don't often get the ones who have hit an outright bottom when it comes to obesity and being overweight. They're just either being nagged by their spouse or partner or whatever, or maybe it's a slight inconvenience. So we would throw them into the category of good. They're not morbidly obese. They're not good when it comes to health, but I think you get the point. They do have some pounds to lose. I don't want to put a number on it. It could be anywhere from 5 to 10 to 20 to 30, whatever. And the ones that are in the 30-pound category, and again, these are very, very random numbers here that don't mean a whole lot other than the point I'm trying to make. You probably will see some results out of them. You'll see them drop down 20 pounds maybe, and then they're in that quote good unquote category. And so now, guess what? You're not getting nearly the same dedication and effort out of them as you did when they were 30 pounds overweight. Now let me back up here for a second. Keep in mind, it's when people tell us they're overweight, when they call and they're telling us. What's so funny is oftentimes we'll hear that, and I will tell a client that this happens often. I'll say, look, you're really not that overweight. In other words, I'll be telling them, look, you have to decide what you want to do working on fitness. And this is after I've known them and have had conversations. They're just really not dedicated to putting in the work it's going to take to lose. I'm just going to say 10 pounds. 10 pounds sounds like nothing, but you have to attack it like it's 50 pounds. And that's what people don't understand. And that is what is so insanely frustrating to us trainers. That 10 pounds is harder than the 50. The 50 just takes longer. When you get closer to your ideal weight, it's going to take more commitment and effort out of you. And people just aren't willing to do it. So I'll often tell a client, I'll say, look, when you're really ready to dedicate yourself, if you want to lose this 10 pounds because your doctor didn't tell you you needed to, maybe your spouse did, I don't know. I mean, I haven't heard that. That's, probably they've got way more issues than the 10 pounds if that's the case. But they're usually unhappy with the 10 pounds. But because they're still good, meaning they're pretty fit, nobody would really notice too much. Maybe they're not as great on the BMI chart that they want to be, but they don't have any health issues. Their cholesterol's fine, their blood pressure's fine. Nobody's accusing them of being overweight, which doesn't happen nearly as much as it used to. They're not going to put in the work. So they'll tell you, I'm just not happy with this. And you don't know how many times they'll literally grab their stomach, and grab some fat. And it's like, okay. But then they think because it's such a few pounds that they only have to put in a few work, and obviously I know a few work isn't a word. I'm just using few twice. So if it's only a few pounds, I think I can put in minimal work and I'll get the results. That's just not the way we lose fat. As a matter of fact, it's completely the opposite. The closer you get, the harder it is. Ask any physique competitor who is trying to shed their final 3 pounds so every one of their abdominals show up on stage. They're like, oh my God, I've been stuck with this like 1 pound or whatever arbitrary goal they set, and it's not coming off. It's harder. Your body is fighting you back every time you're losing some. It's called the set point theory. It happens. Your body is resetting to the weight loss by turning the thermostat down. It happens. When you initially start your weight loss journey and you're morbidly obese, your set point is so freaking high that it's a lot easier to lose weight. And then as you start to lose weight, your thermostat gets tuned down a little bit, turned down by your body. It's just the way biology works. So it's actually harder. So it is so frustrating to work with people like that because they're just not willing to put in the work. It is work. I mean, that means like if you've got 10 pounds to lose and you're already pretty good, you're going to have to log all your meals. You're going to have to eat under your caloric deficit, and that deficit might be lower than somebody trying to lose 30 pounds because you're lighter. So it's going to be even lower. I mean, it just makes sense. If somebody weighs, say, 300 pounds, their basal metabolic rate might be as high as 2,800 to 3,000. If you weigh 150 pounds, your metabolic rate might be as low as 1,300. So guess what? You've got to eat less. It's just the way it is. And that means it's not going to be a lot of food. That means any little bit of treats you're going to pick up on the weekend is going to be a surplus into the old deficit you're trying to create. It's not going to happen. So the point I'm trying to make is it's as hard, if not harder, for the person who has a little bit to lose. It's going to take less time. That's the thing. You're still going to lose if you're following a deficit, a normal caloric deficit of 500 to 1,000 calories per day, a deficit of that. And that could be through eating less and exercising. So it's not like you have to starve yourself. It can come through adding the exercise in, so you're creating the deficit through added activity and a deficit in calories. If you're doing that, the 500 to 1,000, you should still lose around 1 to 2 pounds a week. So if you have 10 pounds to lose, that could be in a month to 6 weeks. It can happen. It's just you're going to have to dedicate every day to it, just like the person trying to lose 100, but they now have to do it for 12 months. You only have to do it for 1, but the effort's the same. And most people don't want to do it. And finally on that, I want to tell you that the people with the elite abs, and I'm only using physique competitors as an example because they're the quote epitome of this ideal American body or whatever. They got the the washboard abs and all that. I'm not saying that's the be all get all of fitness, because that's not necessarily true. I can come up with other types of athletes that are far more fit than that as far as overall fitness. I'm just using that as the example appearance wise. They put in the effort to have those abs. No, they're not born that way. Yes, they have some genetics, but they put in a ton of work. So sometimes people think, oh, it's just not that hard for them. BS. I can guarantee right now, you do not want to follow their diet for 2 months. You do not want to follow their diet for 2 months. I know the elites, and I know what they eat. And, you hear the old, they eat nothing but chicken and broccoli for the most part. That's correct. And they don't mean, oh, and they have a splurge day of this, right? No, they don't. They might eat chicken and broccoli 6 times a day, and that's it. I mean, do you really want to do that? Do you really want to dedicate? I'm not saying it's great. I'm not saying anything like that. I've done similar diets, not quite like that. Didn't quite have that seriousness, but I've done similar. It is not fun. And, does it equal up to be a good thing in the end? I don't know. You have to ask them. I mean, I know for what I did, it did, but again, I didn't go that extreme. So, but the ones that do. And so You don't want to do it. It's not easy like you think. It's extremely hard, and it's actually kind of an insult to them to say things like, well, you don't know. No, it's the other way around. You don't know because you've never done it. You never have had that kind of discipline to do it. I'm not saying you need it. I'm just saying you have to get it. It's very entitled to think that it's easier for them and harder for you. It's not true. It's not true. They are just making choices that you perhaps don't want to make. All right. With that, it's a perfect lead into the second part that I won't take as long because they're similar to each other, but it's the saying, everybody wants to go to heaven and nobody wants to die. And I have to credit one of my longtime clients for that. I'm sure he didn't make it up, but I hear him say it, and it is so absolutely true. And it goes along with the exact same concept. So many people want the super results of fitness, but don't quite want to put in exactly what it takes. And this one goes a little bit outside of the physique competition a little bit because it could be about anything. You know, so many people want to run certain times that their competitors or people they know in their age groups or whatever run, and then when they hear their training plans, they don't quite want to do it. And worse than that, they'll make like real snarky comments like, well, if I had all the time in the world like them, I guess I could train too. Well, that's not true either, because number one, the people that I know that are really striving for whatever it might be, I just use running, but it could be triathlon, it could be back to physique, it could be other elite team sports or whatever. The ones I know, I mean, yes, I know some that are unemployed or whatever, but they still have kids, they still have a job, they're still doing stuff, right? I mean, their job is at home. But I know many that have lives outside of their training, but they set their alarms for 4:30 in the morning and they get up and they'll do their training at 4:30. They'll be in the shower by 6 a.m. and they'll get to work. And I know many people like that do that. The famous, I don't even remember his name now, but I'm going to use him as an example because he was an elite long distance runner. He was on the side of the ultra marathons. Oh, he's famous. I can't think of his name. Dean something. I should know it. And you guys listen and will go, oh, him, yeah. They called him the Midnight Runner. But anyway, he had a full-time job during the day as something in the accounting world. And he was famous for running all night and then getting a little bit of shut-eye, taking a shower, going to work. Yes, that's extreme. They called him the Midnight Runner because he ran at midnight, and then he would order pizzas and they would deliver pizzas to wherever he was, literally on the side of the road. I mean, he would log just incredible amount of miles. Again, very extreme, but he became one of the greatest ultra distance runners in the world and is famous and written books. So for him, I think it paid off. But anyway, he would order these pizzas and they would meet him on the side of the road. I mean, these crazy stories. Point is, he worked full time. He had a family. He didn't want to cut into that time with his family or work, so he ran all night. It's very not nice to sit there and always assume just because people are reaching great heights that like they have all the time in the world to do the things that they want to do. And I'm just addressing these things because as a trainer, I hear it all the time and I don't like it because it's not true, because I work with people who put in so much time and effort, and it is so entitled and spoiled to sit there and make comments like that. I'm not saying everybody has to do it. All I'm saying is give credit where credit is due. When you see a really fit person out there, and I know where this stuff comes from. I mean, I have a psychology degree. I worked in psychology for a while. I still love psychology. If I ever went back for my PhD, I believe it would be in sports psychology. So I love psychology. So I do analyze things all the time. So I know where it comes from. It comes from jealousy, inferiority, and the old classic, you're out running and somebody yells at you, on the side of the road, and typically you look up and the driver's, really out of shape and rude, and, they're basically just outright threatened by your appearance, whatever, which is really, really silly. But you know what? Fit people deal with it all the time. There's all these kind of things about, prejudices and things like that. It's like, well, I tell you what, how many times, we heard, don't, fat shame somebody that's in a tank top or some kind of clothes that some people would say isn't made for them. That's not right. I mean, I'll agree with that. If they want to wear a tank top, wear a tank top. But you know what? Far more, I've heard people say, oh, look at him wearing that tank top. He thinks he's something. Really? Maybe he's just hot and wants to stay cooler. Look, I'm speaking a little bit from experience here. I can remember that exactly happening to me in my 20s, and I don't wear them as much now just because, I don't know, I like t-shirts. But, I can remember wearing one to when I was in college and, somebody making a comment, it's like, really? So, somebody muscular wears a tank top and they're just being a jerk and a bully and they're just trying to show their muscles. I mean, so this guy can't wear one over here because you're going to fat shame him, and now this guy can't wear them because he's showing off his muscles. I mean, it goes both ways. It absolutely goes both ways. And the point I'm trying to make in the second part is this. I heard another trainer say this years ago, and it's absolutely true. He said, Rob, everybody wants to look better and feel better. That's true. It is absolutely true. If there's somebody out there that says, no, that's not true, I don't want to look any better than I do, and I don't want to feel any better, let me know. And if you're serious, I'll mail you out a free book, just because you'll be the only person I've ever met that said that. We all do. And the ones that don't need to, like from an outside opinion, there's plenty of people I would look at and say, I don't think you need to look any better. I think you need to look great. They're going to look at me and they're going to say, no, I'm sorry, but I don't like this. Like, okay, all right, whatever. So everybody feels that way. So guess what? If you really want to feel better and look better, don't judge the person who you view as being more fit than you view, because I doubt they're viewing it that way. Most likely they could care less and don't even know who you are. But you view it as that. They have all the time in the world. I work full time. Don't view it that way. Just be like, man, they must put in their work. And I can tell you, that's my view. That's my view. When I see people like that, out in public or in Instagram videos or whatever, I never look at Ellen and go, oh, look at this asshole. I wish I had access to the supplements he has. I look at him and go, man, this guy looks good. Man, he's putting in the work. Or another thing we do with that, with the guys is oftentimes, oh, he's juicing. You know what? Number one, you don't know that. Number two, hate to break it to you, if somebody is, all it's doing is helping their physique, not building their physique. And I want to explain to you right now as a physiologist, I don't believe in steroids. I don't think they're healthy. I think that if people take them, they're putting their health in jeopardy later in life. Absolutely. And I think for most people, that's ridiculous. For maybe some professional athletes that are trying to make a football team, okay, whatever. Would I do it? I don't know. I never have. That's all I can say. Would I? I have no idea. I'm not going to judge them though, because they're trying to make a roster spot. For the average guy taking it so he can be big at the gym, I'll agree. That's silly. But I'll also tell you this. They would have had close to that physique anyway. The only thing the steroids do is speed up the process. That's what they do. They speed up growth. They don't make them who they're not going to be. They just speed it up. They speed up recovery. So my point is, that's not a good excuse either. So gentlemen, when you see that, don't, oh, he's juicing, I'm not. No, that's not the reason. He's, number one, maybe genetically a little bit more gifted than you, and most likely he just works his ass off far harder than you do. Accept it. I will. I mean, I'll just be like, damn, that guy's putting in the work. I mean, he looks great. So everybody wants that heaven, and instead of working for it, they sit back and criticize it. And I'm not going to change the world. I'm just giving you my opinions, because these are what the podcasts are supposed to be about, right? I want to give you my opinion as a fitness expert that, we need to accept our own results. We need to, instead of sit back and critiquing people, and instead of making excuses, We just need to say, you know, well, they're putting in the work, I'm not. When I'm ready to put in the work, maybe I can look like that. Or maybe I don't want to look like that. That's fine too. It doesn't matter. I mean, you know, us trainers anyway, we don't sit back and go, oh man, this guy. It's like, y'all, you know, those that know me know my clientele base. And of course I wouldn't say, you know, I'm opening up a total can of worms right here. But if like off the record you say, oh, who's your most fit client? You probably all would be like, really? So yeah, because I value this and this and this. May not be who you think it is. I'm not saying they're better or worse. I'm saying that we view fitness a little bit differently because we view it from all the way around. Somebody's strength, their endurance, their body composition, their flexibility, what they can do, their ADLs. Like there are some people that absolutely blow me away. And you might look at them and you might go, man, they look very, very average. Well, to you, that's your naked eye looking at it. I'm looking at all the things they can do because fitness is many, many, many components. So I'll just leave it at that. We don't view it as, oh man, you know, they have ripped abs. Great. Okay, good. I mean, and that is good. That really, really is good. But that doesn't always mean the person's super, super fit. There are so many other variables involved in that. And I will wrap this up with one more story I have concerning this. And it was a long time ago, and I was at my other location, and it was a guy who I didn't agree with him necessarily on the way he wanted to lose weight, and we talked a little bit about it, and he came in one day and he says, you know, I decided I really don't I know I'm overweight. And he grabbed his little belly, you know, and he was just a little overweight, right? I wouldn't have called him overweight. He's like, I know I'm a little overweight. He grabbed his little belly and he was like, I'm not ready to change. I'm not ready to do it. And I just really want us to work on strength, fitness, so I can be the best, airplane pilot that I can be. He had to stay fit and healthy to keep his pilot's license. I said, sure. You know, we shook hands and we were good. It was like, that's just ownership. Like, instead of always coming in and being like, oh, I want to lose 10 pounds. You logging your food? No. You're not drinking any more wine? Well, I'm having some. You know, did you cut out all the sodas? Well, how about the creamer in your coffee? No, I'm still doing that. Like, instead of all that, you know, that people just think they can continue to do and lose weight, he just owned it. And as trainers, that's really all we want. Just own it. When you're really ready to do what we tell you you need to do it. Trust us and do it. And you will lose the weight. When you're not ready, don't waste your time or ours, is the bottom line. It's gonna take work. It's gonna take work. To get to heaven, you gotta do it all. It's gonna take work. So, I love those two sayings. Please remember them. You know, good is the enemy of great. I say it a lot because when we're good, we're not that motivated to get great. Not often. You have to really want it. There has to be something to inspire you. And then everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die, which basically means to get to the pinnacle of where you want to be, it's going to take a hell of a lot of effort. It's going to take everything you have, not some of what you have, everything. All right? So, have a great weekend, everybody. I'm checking out for the week. I'll catch up with you on Monday. And until then, be max fit and be max well.